The fiendish blood that creates tieflings is isolated to a particular branch of a family and doesn't appear in every generation. Sometimes the inheritors of these bloodlines appear as normal members of their race, although the innate magic in their ancestry often gives them sorcerous powers. Some families, however, cultivate their diabolic lineage, often making pacts with fiends and actively adding to the bloodline. Such families have many tieflings among them, as well as non-tieflings who are powerful sorcerers and warlocks. Today we're going to meet a member of such a family. Hi everyone, and welcome to a diabolical episode of
The Dungeon Crashers.
I'm Guy.
And I'm Zapeel. Before we start today's story, please like our video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our exciting D&D content. Today we are presenting the last member of our tiefling party. The Sword Coast Adventure Guide introduced variant tieflings that had different abilities than the standard features. One of the variant is winged. Instead of the Infernal Legacy trait, they have a pair of devil wings that give them a 30-foot fly speed. A few things to note about this variant is that DMs often ban it. Flying at first level is very powerful, and many DMs just don't want to deal with it. Also, this variant was created before Mordecai's Tome of Foes was released, so mentions the Infernal Legacy trait specifically. The only lineage from the Tome of Foes that has a trait called the Infernal Legacy is Asmodeus. The others have the legacy associated with other archdevils, so rules as written, only tieflings of the Asmodeus lineage can be winged. We believe that we can use any lineage and just replace whichever legacy they have, so we are using the Glasnia lineage. The dexterity boost will help us more the intelligence, but what we really want is the flavor from it. Glasnia is a criminal mastermind of the Nine Hells, and her followers and descendants tend to belong to criminal organizations, and that suits our character well. If your DM disagrees, you will need to base this character on the Asmodeus lineage, but it shouldn't be hard to adjust the ability scores to make that work. Glasnia tieflings have the common tiefling traits. They are medium size and have a movement speed of 30 feet. They have 60 foot of dark vision and resistance to fire damage, and they have a +2 bonus to charisma. Glasnia tieflings also get a +1 to dexterity. Instead of the legacy of Malbalge, our hero has a pair of large black feathered wings on her back, similar to an Ares devil. These wings give her a natural fly speed of 30 feet. For the background, we are taking the criminal background. Our hero is part of an organization which is part crime family and part devil-worshipping cult. Their members include tieflings of multiple lineages, sorcerers, fiend warlocks, rogues, and priests devoted to various archdevils. Her background gives her the skills stealth and deception, as well as proficiency with thieves' tools. It also gives her proficiency with a gaming set, and she chooses tarot cards. She knows a number of card games to play with them, and while she really can't tell the future with them, she is very good at getting people to believe she can. Also, with the DM's approval, we would like to use them as our arcane focus, just for style and definitely not important to this build. For ability scores, we use the point buy system. We put a 9 on strength, 8 would be fine, but we had a spare point. We put a 13 on dexterity, making it 14 with the racial bonus. She is going to be wearing medium armor and using some dexterity-based skills and a finesse weapons. We put a 14 on constitution, a 10 on intelligence, and a 14 on wisdom. It is going to be one of her casting stats. And we put a 13 on charisma, making it 15 with the +2 racial bonus, and we will be taking a feat to increase it later.
For her whole life, the family has been everything to her. From a young age, she was taught that the devils were the strength of the family, and it is because of them that the family has wealth and power. She was taught that her horns and wings marked her as being especially blessed by Glacia, the family's patron. From a young age, she felt a special connection to the Hells and the devils, and devoted herself to the family shrine. The priests of Glacia worship many of Glacia's qualities. Some admire her cunning and her trickster clerics. Knowledge clerics reveal her ability to uncover secrets, and some clerics, as well as the assassins in the family, revere her for her ability to deal death, and some of her priests are death clerics. Our hero studies with one such priest, learning the rites and sacrifices used to show devotion. Our hero begins as a first-level cleric and chooses the death domain. She gets 2 skills from the cleric list and takes persuasion and insight. She gets proficiency with simple weapons, shields, and medium armor. She also gets martial weapon proficiency from the death domain. Finally, she gets proficiency with wisdom and charisma saves. She wants to be able to use stealth effectively, so she will start with a chain shirt and upgrade to breastplate as soon as possible, and she will use a shield. For weapons, she carries a short sword and a whip. She's not going to be a melee-focused character, but it's good to have the option, and she will be fairly effective if necessary. Also, the whip just fits her style. As a cleric, she gets spellcasting. She starts with 2 first-level spell slots and 3 cantrips known. She takes Guidance, Sacred Flame, and Toll the Dead. The Death domain also allows her to take a Necromancy cantrip from any list. Normally she would take Chill Touch, but we're going to get that later, so she takes Spare the Dying. Clerics are prepared casters and can prepare a number of spells from the cleric list equal to her level plus her wisdom modifier, so 3 for now. And she's going to prepare Healing Word, Cure Wounds, and Guiding Bolt. As a death cleric, she also gets domain spells that are always prepared and don't count against the number of spells she can prepare. The death domain gives her Ray of Sickness and False Life. False Life is good because temporary hit points are good for both extending her life and protecting her concentration. Ray of Sickness is one of those spells that can be good but often isn't. The damage is just okay and it gives a constitution save, which makes it mediocre, but giving an enemy the poison condition is great. So if the enemy isn't strong against constitution saves, this should be her go-to spell, otherwise stick with Guiding Bolt. She can also use a Divine Focus for her spells instead of material components, and she places the Sigil of Glacia on her shield, allowing her to cast cleric spells even with a weapon in hand. Clerics are also ritual casters and can cast cleric spells with the ritual tag without spending a spell slot by extending the casting time to 10 minutes. From the death domain, she gains the ability of Reaper. When she casts a necromancy cantrip that only targets one creature, she can instead target 2 if they are adjacent to each other. Her family sends her on many missions for them. Sometimes it's to negotiate deals with other families or secure the loyalty of corrupt nobles and guardsmen. Sometimes she is sent to gather information and occasionally even to assassinate enemies of the family. Over time, her connection to Glacia deepens. She feels that she doesn't need to pray for divine power, it just rises up within her. She begins to practice this new ability and use it in service to her family. At second level, she becomes a first-level Divine Soul Sorcerer. She gains spellcasting. As a multi-class caster, her spell slots will be different than a single-class caster, and you'll refer to the table on page 164 and 165 in the player's handbook to determine her spell slots. Also, since she has different casting stats, it's important to remember that if casting a prepared cleric spell, she uses Wisdom, and if casting a sorcerer spell, she uses Charisma. As a Divine Soul Sorcerer, she can also choose her spells known from the cleric list, and they become sorcerer spells for her. She starts with 4 cantrips and 2 first-level spells known. For cantrips, she takes Green Flame Blade. It will allow her to be effective if she has to engage in melee, and it will be very cool to be wielding a flaming whip. She also takes Chill Touch, which is why we didn't take it at first level. This is going to be strong with her Reaper ability, and it's better to cast it with Charisma rather than Wisdom. She takes Firebolt as well to use against targets when they aren't adjacent to an enemy, since it will be a little more effective than Chill Touch. Lastly, she takes Friends. While naturally persuasive, sometimes it takes a little extra to convince people to obey her. For her spells known, she takes Shield to bolster her defenses, and she learns Guiding Bolt. She will be better off casting it as a sorcerer, and she can start preparing Shield of Faith as a cleric instead. Divine Soul Sorcerers get a spell associated with the alignment of their divine ancestor, and for our hero this could be evil or law, and she chooses law. This adds the spell Bless to her spells known, and it doesn't count against the number of spells she knows. Bless is a nice buff for herself and any minions she might have, and since she isn't currently using her concentration for anything else, it'll be a big help. Also, as a Divine Soul, she is favored by the gods. When she fails an attack roll or saving throw, she can call on Glacia and roll 2d4 and add it to her total, possibly changing the result. She can't do this again until she finishes a short or long rest.
At third level, she becomes second level sorcerer and gains Font of Magic, which are sorcery points that she can use to create spell slots. She will also get more uses for these points later. She can also convert spell slots to sorcery points when she has the ability to use them. She also learns another first level spell, and she chooses Absorb Elements to further help her defenses and possibly give her advantage in combat. At fourth level, she becomes a third level sorcerer and gains Meta Magic. These are abilities she can use to alter her spells, and she does so by spending sorcery points. She chooses 2 Meta Magic options. The first she takes is Transmute spell, that allows her to alter the damage type of her spells. If she casts a spell that deals cold, acid, fire, poison, lightning, or thunder, she can spend 1 sorcery point to change its damage to another one of those types. The second she takes is Quicken spell, allowing her to spend 2 sorcery points to cast a spell that requires 1 action as a bonus action instead. There is a rule that says if you cast the spell as a bonus action, you can't cast another leveled spell on the same turn, so this won't let you cast 2 Guiding Bolts, but it could let her cast Guiding Bolt and Firebolt or Ray of Sickness and Chill Touch. It could also let her attack with her whip and then cast Green Flame Blade for another attack with the whip. She gets the ability to cast second level spells and learns a spell that can be of second level, and she chooses Scorching Ray for a stronger attack than Guiding Bolt. Her family sends her on an important mission. A priest fairly loyal to the family has betrayed them and betrayed his devotion to Glazia, instead turning his worship to the demon Lolth. He and some of other cultists have stolen an artifact of great power that was consecrated to Glaznia and consecrated to Lolth instead. These traitors have fled, and she is tasked to hunt them down and recover the artifact by any means necessary. At 5th level, she takes 4th level of Sorcerer and gets an ability score improvement or a feat, and she takes the Flame of Pelagos feat. It causes her to be shrouded in flames whenever she casts a fire spell. The flames are harmless to her, but deal 1d4 damage to anyone that hits her with a melee attack. This lasts until the end of her next turn, and the flames shed bright light for 30 feet and dim light for an additional 30 feet. It lets her re-roll ones on a damage dice for fire spells, which will be especially useful with Scorching Ray. This feat also gives her a +1 to Charisma, making it 16. She also learns another 2nd level spell, and she takes Lesser Restoration from the Cleric list. Her cantrips improve here, gaining an additional dice of damage. Green Flame Blade now deals 1d8 fire damage to the target, and 1d8 plus her Charisma modifier in fire damage to an adjacent enemy. At 6th level, she becomes 5th level of Sorcerer. She learns another cantrip, and she takes Minor Illusion. Its versatility will be very useful on the more secretive missions she will undertake for her family. She can also learn another spell that can be of up to 3rd level, and she takes Fireball. Sometimes overwhelming force is necessary, and it works with her Flames of Pelagos. At 7th level, she becomes a 6th level Sorcerer. Her Divine Soul gives her Empowered Healing. When she or anyone within 5 feet of her rolls a dice to determine how many hit points are recovered by a healing spell, she can spend 1 sorcery point to re-roll any number of those dice. She also learns another spell, and she takes Revivify. At 8th level, she becomes a 7th level Sorcerer, gaining an ability to learn 4th level spells, and she chooses Wall of Fire. At 9th level, she becomes an 8th level Sorcerer, getting an ability score improvement or a feat, and she is going to increase her Charisma to 18. She can learn another spell, and she takes Spirit Guardians from the 3rd level Cleric list. While she prefers to engage her enemies at range, if she is forced into close quarters combat, this will deal ongoing damage to multiple enemies.
Our hero and the band of rogues she took to accompany her eventually track the cultists to a series of caves at the edge of the kingdom, and they go to retrieve the artifact, but find themselves too late. Someone has already invaded the caves and slaughtered the cultist, and the relic is nowhere to be found. After not so gently interrogating a number of kobolds and other surviving humanoids, she learns that a group of tieflings invaded the caves, slaughtering the inhabitants and eventually killing the cultists who had made an agreement with the goblin chieftain, and taking the artifact with them. But the goblin chieftain's son, who survived the raid, staged an attack on the keep as cover for stealing back the artifact. Our hero sends her minions to the keep to see what happened to those tieflings. Her servants report back to her that the tieflings have set out in search of the artifact and are heading to the home of the hill giant chieftain beyond the borders of the kingdom. Instructing her followers to wait in the keep, she flies north to intercept the adventurers. They were difficult to find, being very stealthy in their travels, but she finds them approaching the chief's steading. After she watches them make camp, she flies a short distance away and sets her own, choosing a place where she is sure the sound and smoke from her fire would be noticed by the tiefling adventurers. Her surprise was real when the woman entered her camp. The visitor must have been using invisibility magic, but she composed herself quickly, and when the woman said she just wanted to talk, our hero was glad to comply, and wove a tale of being an agent for good who seeks to thwart any schemes the giants might have involving the artifact, and to recover it so that her organization could safely lock the object of evil away. Her visitor, being very eager and naive, took this as a sign that they must become allies, and took her back to her own camp to introduce her to the other adventurers and invite her to join them. She prays to Glacia, thanking the archdevil for the cunning that deceived the adventurers, and asks her for further blessings. At 10th level, she becomes a 2nd level cleric, gaining a use of channel divinity. She can use this once, and it recovers on a short or long rest. In addition to being able to use this to turn undead, it also gives her touch of death. When she hits a target with a melee attack, she can deal extra necrotic damage equal to 5 plus twice her cleric level. She can also prepare an additional spell. Protection from good and evil would be a good choice. At 11th level, she becomes a 9th level sorcerer and can now learn 5th level spells, and she chooses Holy Weapon from the cleric list, giving her a strong option in melee or empowering an ally. She also retrains Revivify for Raise Dead. Her cantrips improve, gaining an additional dice of damage, and this applies to both effects of Green Flame Blade. At 12th level, she becomes a 10th level sorcerer and gains another meta magic option and takes Careful Spell. She has learned that one drawback of casting Fireball is that it has a tendency to also hurt allies, which is wasteful. This meta magic allows her to spend a sorcery point when casting a spell that causes creatures to make a saving throw, and choose a number of those creatures equal to her Charisma modifier to automatically succeed on that saving throw. And she also learns another spell and takes Greater Restoration. She learns another cantrip as well and takes Mage Hand for yet another versatile tool. The adventurers have a cunning plan to invade the keep using stealth in the night, killing any giants they encounter quickly to avoid sounding alarms, and make their way to the chief, hoping to catch him unaware. It seems a good plan, and her new allies seem formidable, so she agrees to join them. The plan went well, and they did catch the giant chief sleeping, but it wasn't totally unprepared. It took up its great mace and barked orders to a trained cave bear it kept as a pet. The battle was as brutal as it was quick, and they managed to subdue the chieftain. Sadly, the goblins that had taken the artifact fled the steading, heading north to take it to the frost giant Jarl. The chieftain bargains for his life with information and treasure, and the companions set out in pursuit of the goblins.
At 13th level, she becomes an 11th level sorcerer. She can now learn 6th level spells, and she takes Disintegrate for a powerful ranged attack spell. She also retrains Guiding Bolt to learn Heal and starts preparing Guiding Bolt as a cleric. The Frost Giant's fortress is perilous in the extreme, but many of the enemies they face are vulnerable to her powerful fire magic. It takes weeks of hit-and-run tactics before they can face the Jarl himself in battle. They attempt to take him alive, but the Jarl fights to his last breath. Searching the chief's chamber, they discover treasure as well as several items of magic, one of which is an iron chain. The archer, who is adept with divination, discovers that it forms a gate leading them to the Hell of the Fire Giant King. Guessing that it would be where the goblins fled with the artifact, the companions form the gate to press on. At 14th level, she becomes 12th level sorcerer, getting another ability score improvement or a feat, and she increases her constitution to 16, both for more hit points and for the improved concentration. At 15th level, she becomes a 13th level sorcerer, and she learns 7th level spells, and she takes Firestorm. She also retrains Raise Dead in order to learn Resurrection. At 16th level, she becomes a 14th level sorcerer. From Divine Soul, she gets Angelic Form, allowing her to grow spectral feathered wings from her back, which would be great if she didn't already have wings. If you are building this character in a game where your DM doesn't allow winged tieflings, this will be very helpful. The wings give a fly speed of 30 feet and can be summoned using a bonus action and lasts until she dies, is incapacitated, or uses the bonus action to dismiss them. The battle with the fire giants was dangerous in the extreme. Many times she came close to exhausting her magic, both from using her healing and using her font of magic to convert her fire spells into ice attacks. While searching for the fire giant king, they encountered a red dragon. Our hero had never seen a dragon before, but knew what to do. She kept her distance, hammering it with blasts of ice, while helping keep the paladin and rogue healthy enough to hold off the beast. During their explanation of the Giants' Hall, they also find evidence that the Giants are working with the Drow of the Underdark and plan much destruction for the human lands. They also discover a passage to the Underdark beneath the halls. Finding no trace of the artifact or the goblin thieves, our heroes conclude that they must have fled into the Underdark, so they continue on their quest to find them. At 17th level, she becomes a 15th level sorcerer, and she can learn a spell of 8th level, and she chooses Incendiary Cloud for another powerful fire attack that can deal ongoing damage. Her cantrips improve a final time, gaining another dice of damage that applies to both effects of Green Flame Blade. The companions make their way through the Underdark, battling Kuatoa and other dwellers of the deep, including a drow vampire and a succubus lover. Our hero badly wants to kill them both, as they are both clearly servants of Lolth, who has become her enemy, but her companions have other ideas and bargain with the two for information and guidance to the Drow city in exchange for sparing them. It is important that her fellow adventurers continue to trust her until the artifact is recovered, so she plays along with the plan as if it were her own idea. At 18th level, she takes 3rd level of cleric. This lets her prepare another spell, and it can be of 2nd level. Aid, Augury, and Prayer of Healing are all good choices, but considering the danger of their situation, she chooses to prepare Prayer of Healing. At 19th level, she becomes a 16th level sorcerer, gaining an ability score improvement or a feat, and she's going to cap her charisma at 20 for the most powerful casting she can muster. She also retrains Lesser Restoration, and she can now prepare it as a cleric and learns Dominate Monster to turn enemies into servants.
After using threats, bribes, stealth, and other intrigues, the party is able to confront and defeat the Drow matron, but once again find that the goblins are one step ahead of them and have fled into the abyss, taking the artifact into the demon web pits, the realm of the demoness Loth. The companions are undaunted and use the Drow Matron's personal portal to enter the abyss. It requires no deception or manipulation on her part to convince her fellow tieflings that the artifact needs to be reclaimed and the demon goddess slain before the world of men can be safe. They already share that ambition, and when the artifact is recovered, she may even be able to convince them that her family are the ones to lock it away safely. If so, these adventurers will be useful allies. If not, she will have to take the artifact by force, and considering how powerful and relentless these adventurers are, she will have to kill them all, or she and her family would never be safe. At 20th level, she becomes a 17th level sorcerer and can learn a 9th level spell, and she chooses Meteor Swarm, as it is the most powerful destructive spell in the game, and it works with her Flames of Felagoth. She also retrains the Resurrection for Wish, which can not only duplicate the effects of Resurrection, it can do many other powerful things. This character has a lot going for it. It does double duty as an offensive caster and as a healer. Her armor and shield proficiency give her strong defense without needing to use magic, and her weapon proficiencies combined with Quicken Spell, Green Flame Blade, and Holy Weapon can make her a real threat if she's forced to fight in melee. In addition to giving her armor and weapon proficiencies, her cleric levels give her some variety and utility in her casting, and the Reaper ability makes Chill Touch and Toll the Dead effective attacks, especially when used with Quicken Spell. If you have any questions, comments, or build requests, please put them in the comments below. Now this includes our Tiefling party, but the story isn't over. Join us next week when we document the struggles of the intrepid goblins who stole the artifact. Until then,
Cheers.